rehashed and re-rehashed. And the verdict is in. The Bears offense is officially in a rut. In fact, the last time John Shoop's troops lit up a scoreboard, they were facing these very same Bucs. The remedy is simple. The coordinator calls a balanced, aggressive game, and the players execute the plan. Ready, break. Expect the entire offense to pick up their play. As for the Bucs, they are no longer a run-first team. In fact, they are next to last in the league, averaging just 80 yards per game on the ground. The 1-2 punch of all Stott and Dunn has been replaced by Johnson to Johnson. Brad and Keyshawn have hooked up a league-high 93 times for over 1,000 yards, but only one score. Folks, if you're looking for a shootout, the Rams and Saints play later. Slight edge Bucs. The defensive battle should be much more interesting. Despite allowing a 100-yard rusher for the first time in 21 games, the Bears D did hold Brett Favre to just 17 points. In fact, this Bears group is yielding less than 15 points per Sunday, yet they still aren't satisfied with their effort, and that's what makes them good. Today, they must pressure the immobile Brad Johnson and force him into mistakes. The Bucs D has also performed well, picking up the tempo of late. Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice have both sacked 6 quarterbacks, while Rondé Barber and Donnie Abraham have combined for 10 interceptions. Obviously, the two are interrelated. And here's a memo for Bears backs and receivers. Know where John Lynch is at all times. If there is any justice at all, we will have as many Pro Bowlers as they do. Slight edge Bears. You know, I like that little Grammatica guy a lot more now that he's just 18 of 24 on the season with a couple of last-second whiffs. I'll stick with Brad Maynard and Paul Edinger, thank you very much. Advantage Bears. Today's key matchup is the same as last week's key matchup. Marty Booker and David Terrell must get the best of Donnie Abraham and Rondé Barber. Yes, it's a tall order, but I say it again, if the Bears can't throw the ball successfully, they won't win. For those of you scoring at home, you may be able to keep track of this one manually without taking off your shoes. But as John Shoop told us last week, the object is to score just one more point than your opponent. I, for one, would be a bit happier with a 50-point explosion, but a win in any form would be just fine. With a W today, the Bears clinch a spot in the postseason for the first time since 1994. An L brings the Bucs back into the playoff picture and doubt back into the Bears locker room. I'm taking what's behind door number 1, regardless of the game time temperature. In a squeaker, Bears 17, Bucs 16.
Back on the reservation.
By the way, I was joking. Obviously, Gary doesn't have a gambling problem. Many problems, gambling is not one of them.
Who writes for you now? Saturday Night Live working for you or something? What are you doing? Unbelievable.
Stop it.
Let's talk about the Bears' anemic passing attack. They haven't scored via the air since the Tampa Bay game a month ago. What's going on?
And Tampa Bay is going to look at the film and obviously say, we have to stop Marty Booker. So if the Bears are not only going to be successful today, you have to take a look at this game and the rest of the season. David Terrell, here's the first pass, the last game. He should have caught the ball. It led to an interception. Des White, no touchdowns. David Terrell, only 2. They need to step up their game if the Bears are going to be successful.
You look for him to try to push that ball to Booker early, develop some kind of rhythm, some kind of...
Right, I do, but I think, go away from that bunch. They got to spread this field out, and those guys have to make the catches. They've got to go deep, obviously.
Obviously. Lots more to tell you about this morning, including, well, we're going to go for a ride. Larry and Tom, take us for a spin. Hopefully we don't encounter any road rage.
Another win for the Saints over the greatest show, Rams. 3 wins in 4 tries the last 2 seasons. In that game, the Rams had more turnovers than Betty Crocker. Remember, there were 8 of them, which I don't need to tell you is ridiculous. But actually, there are 2 ways to look at this loss. They had 8 turnovers, no Marshall Faulk, yet they only lost at the gun. Now, Monday night in New Orleans, the 10-2 Rams can just cut these turnovers out. Maybe they'll win, thereby clinching a playoff spot. But the 7-5 Saints need the game big time in the Big Easy as well. So lots to look at in this ball game, guys. I mean, but New Orleans, why do they have their number? Is there something here?
It's very simple. When you play a high-powered offense, you got to make a choice. You're either going to rush and bring the pressure, or you're going to cover. The New Orleans Saints bring the ability to do both. They can put pressure, as you see right here with their front 4. That allows them to drop 7 into coverage, which creates throwing lane problems. So that is why the Saints are such a difficult task for the Rams to overcome, turnovers or not.
Oh, but you got to like the Rams last week. Everyone knows they can be a high-flying team. They can do all the things, the greatest show on earth. But last week they showed up the MO for Super Bowl stingy defense, running game. Marshall Faulk will pound it at you. And then the defense last week pounded Jeff Garcia as well. And if you talk about how the Rams are going to go all the way, they proved, look, it might be in the Dome. We might play the championship game in the Dome. We might be New Orleans in the Dome. But in the end, if it's not that, we can play anywhere, anytime, anyhow, and we can beat you.
A little different. And if the Rams get rid of the Saints on Monday night, I mean, watch out now.
Who else?
You know?
That's right.
Well, I mean, maybe only Brett Favre in a classic duel at the end. I mean, but we're preceding ourselves. You guys get this.
The Steelers win the Central today if they beat the Ravens. But that's not easy, TB. As you know, the Dolphins, meanwhile, secure a playoff berth with a win and some help, and the Raiders are now going for home field advantage. Right now, the wild card teams are Baltimore, New England, and the Jets. However, Denver, Seattle, and Cleveland are just a game behind the Patriots and the Jets in the loss column. Over in the NFC, the Packers lock up a playoff berth with a win today and some help. The Rams, meanwhile, make the playoffs tomorrow night if they can finally beat the Saints. In the East, the Eagles are in the driver's seat. NFC wildcard race looks like this. Chicago and San Francisco are on top, while the Bucs and Saints are tied for the third spot. The third and final spot. Washington, Atlanta, and New York, thanks to their gigantic win yesterday, are still alive. And that leads us to our Fox Watch, which we begin in Chicago. A Bears victory over the Bucs today will put them in the playoffs for the first time since '94. Calling that game is Pat Summerall. And Pat, I'd assume the Bears fans are pumped up.
All right, JB, thank you very much. And for this time of year, it does not appear that at Soldier Field and in Chicago, the weather will be a factor. Last week, Brad Johnson, the Tampa Bay quarterback, took quite a beating against Detroit. They managed to win the game, but he paid the price. In fact, he told us last night that last week's game and the number of times he was hit took a year off his career. He was hurried 20 times. He was hit 20 times, sacked 4, batted balls twice. He was intercepted twice. As far as the Bears are concerned, they played Minnesota twice. They didn't do as well in the second meeting as they did in the first. They played Green Bay, and the same situation exists. So we'll see what happens against Tampa Bay. They are, however, 9-0 when they score at least 13 points. So it should be interesting. Now let's go to Kenny Albert in Detroit.
Thanks, Pat. The Lions.
At the end of the season, the Bears seem to be doing that.
Here's Anthony Thomas again. A Bear first down to the 40.
Anthony Thomas looks like one of the top backs in the NFL the way he's running now, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
But this offensive line has control. I mean, they have control of everything. But you don't see a white jersey around them. That whole thing is all bunched up in there, and that's caused by good blocking.
I remember another great Bear running back who doesn't get mentioned very much who wore that same number.
Yeah.
Rick Caceres.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Neil Anderson.
Well, that's another one.
Yeah. Look in the second half, Anthony Thomas, 102 yards, 7.3 yards per carry average. That's some run.
This time, no game.
Okay, sit up.
You know, I looked down on the Bear sideline. I was just seeing Danny Werfel down there, the third quarterback, and every time I see Danny Werfel, I think of that one play. Remember when he got his helmet? There's Danny Werfel right there. He's the third quarterback.
Well, look at this.
And we always carry this around. Here he is playing for the Saints. Now, watch his helmet. I think this is impossible. He got his helmet spun all the way around, where the front's in the back and the back's in the front. And he can't find where his face is or anything. He can't.
It's dark in there.
That's one of the most amazing things that I think I've ever seen in football. You?
Yep. Anthony Thomas again. Ryan Urlacher.
Yep, there's a guy that...
That's a name. Barring injury, over time, he's going to be pretty close to being as good as it's ever been.
Yeah, you just look at that head, and that's a head that was made to be a middle linebacker. Although in college at New Mexico, he was a safety.
Yeah. And also played some offense in college.
But, you know, he's going to be a great middle linebacker, and for a long time. I mean, he has the size, the strength, the speed. He has everything, you know, and he just loves to play football. I mean, he doesn't get carried away by this stuff.
Miller looking and throwing and incomplete to Baxter.
He's just trying to throw to the guy in blue. Fred Baxter looks different from every other player on the field out there.
Yep.
That's the guy he throws to. You know, some guys have the dark blue, and then Fred Baxter has blue all over him, and just find the guy in blue and throw it to him.
That's going to be the color of the Buccaneers' flight back to Tampa. Blue. Fielded by Carl Williams at about the 8. Flag on the play.
Yeah, that was a flag. That's going to be against the punting team. That was right on the line of scrimmage. Now they say it's against the return team. It will be offside. It won't be a first down now.
I think I'd leave this one as is. Inside.
Now, before you clinch, before you get there, you try not to use that P word. Now I think someone just told them all it's okay to use the P word. You are in the playoffs.
Today's game is being produced by Bob Stinner and directed by Sandy Grossman. The associate directors, Mike Roig. Broadcast associates are Charles McDonald and Kerry Foster. Technical producers, Bob Muller. The pregame show was produced by Scott Ackerson, directed by Bob Levy. The senior producers, Bill Brown. The executive producers of Fox Sports are Ed Gorin and David Hill. We also want to wish Mike Nathanson, one of our crew, a very, very speedy recovery. And the Bears, time to dance.
Here you keep playing, and early you win a few games, and they say you're lucky, and then the expectations get high, and then they lose one to Green Bay, and it was a tough loss for the Bears and the fans, and they came back. I mean, they bounced back today, and they played as well as I've seen a Chicago Bear team play in a long time.
Indeed they did. Jim Miller been under fire a little bit. John Shoop's been under fire. They both performed very well. Shoop the coach, Miller the quarterback. The Bear team did very well.
Yep, and there's Big Cat Williams, and that offensive line was so big in this win that they controlled that line of scrimmage. You know, you talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their defensive line, their quickness and speed. They were beaten today.
This is Pat Summerall for John Madden and Ron Pitts saying so long from Chicago, where once again the final score is Chicago 27, Tampa Bay 3. Be sure to stay tuned to the Fox Sports for the second game of our doubleheader right after these messages. For more information on today's...
For the first time in 7 years, the Cinderella Bears have joined the playoff party. Who's next? In Motown, did Boss of the Bikes allow the unthinkable? Can the Jets change their December losing ways and keep postseason hopes alive? Is Brady's bunch fall victim to the June 10 Bills? How will the Broncos fare with Barrett at the helm? Battle of 9 and 3. Would the Niners go fishing in the Bay? Will the Pack continue their playoff push in the Music City? Can the Skins sweep the Eagles in the NFC East? We always pick up after ourselves on NFL Prime Time. Next. NFL Prime Time is presented by Miller Lite. Prime Time is Miller time. And now, here's your host, Chris Berman. Hello once again, everybody. Welcome to Week 14 of NFL Prime Time. Hope you're getting your shopping done. Certainly some NFL teams. Tom Jackson going... hello, Tom.
Hello, Boom.
Going shopping for some playoff berths. Not a lot decided. Oakland on Saturday, maybe a little more on a Sunday. And
I like the jockeying for position that we're seeing, especially at the upper levels of some of these divisions.
And at the lower levels, and I mean the lowest level.
Yeah.
You know, you can't root for zeros to continue in the win column. Only 5 teams since the merger had started as bad as 0-12. The Detroit Lions, with new general manager and president Matt Millen being one of them. The Lions on this day had a chance at home against Minnesota, and through the weeks, Millen just hoping and in anguish because it's the last 7, 8, 9 games Detroit has had a chance to pretty much